This has sort of been a hot topic in recent days, or well, when after the event was actually released. For the two recent events, the Hexscape event and Operation Ice, there was two game modes for them, easy and hard mode. Both game modes actually gave the tower, but they were separate towers. So in Hexscape event, easy mode gave the Hallow Punk, and in easy mode Operation Ice, it gave the Snowballer, whereas hard mode gave the Harvester, while in hard mode Operation Ice, it gave the Elementalist. The only other time where this applied when a tower was being given was back in spring 2020 when hard mode gave the Swarmer, but easy mode gave the Tower of Eggs accessory badge. From then on, easy and hard modes rewards were kind of separated, but it was never assumed that you would get a tower from easy mode until the Hexscape event. However, there is kind of a controversy with this because they're easy mode towers, they can't really be necessarily that OP, otherwise early game noobs will have a tower that they can just spam and easily beat the game. See, that's the problem with easy modes. Because of set loadouts, you automatically get high-end towers in easy mode, whereas in hard mode, you have to earn those towers before you can play the game. As such, developers have made it more fair in that a level 0 can beat the event and actually get some of the Battle Pass rewards and get an exclusive tower, but the only issue is it's horribly imbalanced if the tower's to be any good. Now, the developers have actually kind of imposed the restriction on the easy mode towers compared to the hard mode towers by giving them, say, less levels. In fact, the Hallow Punk and the Snowballer are the first towers in the game to only have 3 levels. So here it's 1, 2, 3. And the Snowballer has 1, 2, 3. Now, the reasons for this could be quite easy to explain. They have lower levels to imply that they are only meant to be for the early game. Any more levels and they risk going into the mid-game territory, and these towers aren't meant to be for that. As said before, these towers are only meant to be for people who have beaten the easy mode event, and because easy mode event is accessible for all, including some level 0s, making that publicly available to everyone, a tower that's like on the par with the accelerator, is not a great idea. Or is it? Because people who beat easy mode probably require some level of skill to use the high-end towers that are used in that game mode. For example, to actually get the Snowballer, you will actually have to use some of the high-end towers like the Cowboy and the Accelerator and the DJ Booth or the Pursuit. And that requires some level of manipulation that a level 0, a completely new player to the game, may not be completely involved in or may not completely know. I mean, sure, it could be quite easy to get to grips with it, especially if you have other teammates and because there's a Roblox event on, so people are more likely to get the Snowballer or the Hallow Punk, but that's not a guaranteed thing. However, the controversy amongst people who are already established within the game, or let's say people who are over level 50, is that these towers have basically no use for those people. Kind of makes sense. The developers don't want to make an event tower that's so OP in the early game, so they make these towers, these schmuckos, which have their niche, but their niche is early game, and quite effectively, the Snowballer just isn't that great. So what some people have said is, instead of giving out a tower, why don't they give out a skin? For example, why don't they give out any event skins? Events giving out skins isn't without precedent. For example, the Guest Scout skin was given out at the end of the Classic event. Meanwhile, at the end of Wavius Hunt, in hard mode, you got the Core Blocks Warden, but you didn't get anything in the beginner/easy mode. Well, kind of. You did get the Scout Egg, but then after the Scout Egg was out of stock, you got nothing. Well, you got the Deluxe Raid if you started it before the Scout Egg ran out of stock. Now, there is one major problem with that idea, and that is, what can you make a skin for? Bearing in mind, easy mode assumes you have 0 towers in the game. That's why they give it all for you, all the towers that you need to beat the game. Without that, what are you using? So realistically, we're going to assume that the average person only has the Scout and the Sniper. Yeah, they might have the Demo Man, but we don't know that. It's not guaranteed. You can't be giving out a skin for a tower that some people may not have got because they haven't completed tutorial mode even. So realistically, that only leaves 2 towers that you can make skins for, the Sniper and the Scout. And in the Classic event, because you were given the towers, the developers could only really make a skin for the Scout because that was the only tower, other than the Sniper, that everybody had. You may think, oh, why not make it for the Minigunner skin? Not everyone has the Minigunner, and to actually grind out for the Minigunner, people would actually probably have to play the game for a while, and not everyone could do that, so effectively they're getting no reward. So effectively, if you were to make easy mode have a event skin, you could only make it for 2 towers, the Scout or the Sniper, which really restricts what you could make it for. And the Scout is already stacked with so many skins, it's just exclusive for it. The Prime Raven Scout, the Cookie Scout, the Guest Scout, all of these skins were made because the Scout was the only tower that they assumed everyone had. Obviously, you can make it for the Sniper, but the Sniper is like, let's be real, it's not going to get any skins. Its skins are kind of basic compared to the Scout. I mean, that's why the Hasm skin was also made for the Scout, because it was a tower that everyone had. If you were to make it for the Minigunner, it's people who played the game only for the Please Donate event wouldn't be able to get this skin because they haven't played the game enough to get the Minigunner, or the Ranger, or the Warden, or the Cowboy, or any single tower other than the Scout and the Sniper. Yeah, you could do it for the Soldier, but again, not everyone has the Soldier. You could maybe make the rewards of the easy mode give you the Soldier if you don't have it, but then what's the point of having it in the store? Why have a free tower in the game for just an event? That makes no sense. Which is why there is a event tower for the easy modes recently, because there needs to be some sort of reward for it, unless the developers decide that there's not going to be any reward. I mean, again, it's not without precedent. However, the UGC items have normally been a substitute for easy mode rewards. However, I think the prices for UGC have increased so much that developers decided, nah, we're not doing any UGC drops or anything, because quite recently, have you noticed that there's not been any UGC items in events? Yes, there was some in the previous Halloween 2023 events, but there was none recently. None in the Hexscape events, none in the Operation Ice event. I can only assume that the developers have decided that it's just not worth it, and it's not worth the backlash or the time commitment for some people to get the UGC items. Bearing in mind, this is quite costly for the developers as well. They can only make money after reselling it, and if some items are really cheap to resell, then it's not worth it for them. Now, because they're easy mode towers, the developers probably aren't putting as much effort into these skins or balancing these skins compared to hard mode towers. The event towers aren't usually the best in their field. We already kind of know that, because if they were to be the best, say like the Gladiator, people would demand the Gladiator so much, and there'll be such a disparity between people who have it and people who don't have it, that people who don't have it would complain so much, and then people who do have it would just gatekeep. And that's not what we don't want, a war between those who were here and those who weren't here. However, you kind of do want event towers to be somewhat useful in like a very niche way, so that, okay, you don't need to bring, say, the Freezer. Like, the Chiromancer is like one of the best freezing towers in the game, but you could also alternatively use the Freezer most of the time and get away with it. Hallow Punk, for example, it's kind of like a budget Rocketeer. It's not the best at explosive tower, nor is it something that early game players should always use, but it's still a okay-ish early game Rocketeer for those who really want to use it. But I just wouldn't recommend it if you have the Rocketeer. I mean, even though the Rocketeer is like useless, yeah, like the Ace Pilot. The Ace Pilot is probably better than this. Meanwhile, for the Snowballer, really, it's like a Freezer slash Scout slash Paintballer slash Demo Man. Like, honestly, you might as well just use the Freezer Scout combination if you want to get the Snowballer. But that's like the purpose of these event towers, just to smudge some early game towers together and just say, yes, right, so if we were to release these into the actual game as an evergreen tower, they'll be starter towers. They'll inevitably, Hallow Punk and the Snowballer will end up here in the starter category. Then again, it does take some time to actually make the easy mode towers. So again, that's why there's 3 levels, so there's less models to create. There's only 4 models to create as opposed to 5 if it was level 4 or 6 if it was level 5. I mean, that's why their Robux price is so cheap, is because you're not really buying the Snowballer because it's some sort of good tower to use, nor is it even a good tower for its own niche. It's just a collectible item, and you can easily get it in easy difficulty. So that's why the developers really effectively could only make an event tower for easy mode to hand out, because what alternative is there? I mean, yeah, you could give out some seasonal rewards, you can give out, let's say, the holiday crate, but they really do that. Why not make something collectible? Why not make some of the early game base, the people who have just recently played, worth their time to actually play the game? And they can do that with a cheap throwaway event tower, even something that may not be useful or good, well balanced, Just give them this. It's worth something. I mean, that's why high-end players always play the events, even if the event tower isn't that great. Say for like the Elemental. I mean, the Elementalist is like an tower. But that's why even for, say, the Trick or Threat Town, when the Toxic Gunner wasn't even in the game, we didn't know how well it was going to be or how good it was going to be. High-level players still came back to beat this event just because of the promise of an event tower. So it's effectively a promise of an early game tower for the lower-level people that's basically attracting them to play the game. I mean, I feel like that's most fair because then if you're new to the game, you don't need to have, say, the accelerator to actually get the one and only event tower. And I guess that's why the recent events have had easy modes. Because let's be real, all the other game modes, like, say, the Krampus Revenge event, or the Lunar Overture event, or the Violent Night event, or the Duck Hunt event, or the Solar Eclipse event, they've always kind of been discriminatory towards those who have high-end towers. I mean, yeah, even the Solar Eclipse event, yeah, like Night 1, Night 2, Night 3, they've had easy mode things. So, like, Night 1 could easily be beaten if you only had the Scout, and high-end players were confused. They were baffled why this was the case. It's just to attract the event, make sure the event is accessible for all, but then you couldn't get the event tower at the end of it. So if you were a balancer for the game, what would you put for easy mode? Yeah, the only solution would be an event tower, I think. I mean, sure, you can make a skin for the minigunner, but again, who in level 0 is going to want to play the game for the want of a skin that will get it like 2 months down the line or something if you don't regularly play the game? I mean, that's kind of recently why the easy modes in the past haven't had an event tower or skins, because there's been no way to claim it if you don't have the tower. Now there is, because the gift claim system has been updated so that when you buy the tower, you automatically get the skin that you earned previously. So in this case, yeah, that would work. But I don't know, promising people an accelerator skin after beating easy mode when the accelerator skin's the last thing on people's mind, yeah, nah.